So I wanted to show quickly an example of how to capture the response time in Rest Assured. This is something that I hadn't actually used until recently, but it's actually pretty powerful, so I thought it was worth including. So if we wanted to capture the actual response time, first we're going to just use our single game class, single game test here, and we've got our request config set to video game. So we're just going to add in, because we're going to capture the actual response time, so we're just going to put in a long for the response time. And it's going to equal this query, our Rest Assured expression here. And then at the end of our get, after our get, we're just going to do dot time. So that's going to capture the response time for us. We'll just print it out quickly so that we can see what it looks like. And I'll just run this test. So we would expect the Rest Assured test to run as normal, complete everything in its specification, and then it captures the response time for us, in this case 835. So that's great for capturing it, but instead of capturing it, a better thing that we can even do is to actually assert on it. So let me just take out the code that I just added, and then we'll take this time out and add in a then instead. So we go back to the normal format of given, when, then, and now we can add time. And we can check that using a Hamcrest matcher it's less than, so we need to add in the Hamcrest matcher here. So we'll find the matcher in a moment, so let's just say less than 1000 milliseconds. And we have our Hamcrest matcher has appeared here, so we'll just import that. So now what Rest Assured is doing is that it's asserting that the response time is less than a millisecond. Let's run the test and see what happens. So last time the response time was 835, and this time again we're checking that it's less than, and it failed. The response time was 1141 instead of 1000. So this test in here caught error. Let's change it to say 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds, and run again. And this time the test passes, so we know then that it was less than 2 seconds. So another cool thing that we can do is that instead of having to add this assertion each time, we can add this into our request spec, into our response spec I should say, because we're checking the response. So this is something that we can add to our status code. So we can also add expect response time, do less than again, and just to be safe we'll say 3000 milliseconds. Let's see if we can find our Hamcrest matcher, do a static import method. So now for every one of our responses, it's going to assert that not only is the status code 200, but also that the response time is less than 3 seconds, or 3000 milliseconds, sorry. I'm just going to take this assertion out of here now, because we don't need it here anymore, because it's being done at the class level in our test config class. And so now that will apply to all of the tests. So I'm just going to change this to a small number first, just to see if it will fail. So I wouldn't expect it to be less than 300 milliseconds. I would expect this test to fail. So let's go ahead and run the test again. And sure enough, the test fails. It wasn't less than 300 milliseconds, it was 800, as we would expect. I'll change that back to 3000. Run the test again, and finally I would expect this to pass when it reruns. And sure enough, it passes. So that's how to capture and then assert on response time in Rest Assured. I hope that was useful. I'll see you in the next lecture.